very sobering moment. I want to thank the jury that sat in this case. Their verdict is a transcendental one. It transcends the criminal justice system. It makes a statement about violence against women that is one of the biggest problems that we have in this country, and that it won't be tolerated. The defendant in this case was a coward and a bully, and when Stacey Peterson disappeared in October of 2007, and we reopened the file on the death of Kathleen Savio, it was obvious to me that it wasn't an accident. And the journey has been a long one. Initially, when we did the exhumation, everybody questioned it. When we wrote the legislation, I was criticized viciously. We took one appeal, then a second appeal, and then we came to the trial court, and the result culminated today. And again, I've never had a case where I've had members of the community on a daily basis approach me and call me by my first name, tell me that they're praying for me. But it's not about me, and it's not about the members of my team, which they just did a fantastic job. We've been working every single day, all day. But it was for a greater good. I want to thank the members of Kathleen Savio's family that were with us through the entire matter. Anna and Susan, who testified, and their testimonies were vital in this case. It has been, and members of the state police that are here. Without their help in reconstructing this case, we never could have proved it, and I want to thank them. They're standing over here. Again, it was a team effort all the way, but I've never seen a community come together on a case like they have on this one. And again, the focal point is we've got a serious problem of violence in this country, and we see it day in, day out. There's a hedonistic violence that permeates our society, and we must take this as a warning sign and do something about it. So I'd be glad to field any questions that you might have.
You haven't talked about testimony at all. What about the testimony?
I'm sorry, Scott. I actually had been on the telephone with Reverend Shorey, and he was saying a prayer. Because when we got the question what does unanimous mean? The first thing that flashed through my mind is a hung jury. And I called Reverend Shorey, and he prayed with me on the phone. And I couldn't just sit there in my office and stew. And we talked again. He was crying when I talked to him on the phone after the verdict came back.
Jim, what about testimony? You haven't talked about that before. Was the testimony of Neil Shorey and Harry Smith, were those the two key pieces that you think really clinched this for you?
Obviously, they were very, very important. But let's not forget, if we didn't prove it was a murder, none of that testimony would have mattered. So Dr. Mary Case and Dr. Bloom, Dr. Baden, and Dr. Mitchell, who did the initial autopsy, the evidence that they provided for this case was absolutely critical. Without that, we couldn't even gone to the second step.
So what role will
They're absolutely wrong. Giles versus California was the first statement by the U.S. Supreme Court with Justice Scalia writing the opinion, and he is one of the champions of the right to confrontation. This is a 400-year-old principle in the common law. When you, especially in this case, if you murder the witness to silence them, you extinguish your right to confront the witness. And this case, as you know, went through a sieve. Judge Vermilla did not let a lot of the evidence come in. I can't imagine that he has put any reversible error into this record, and so we're very confident that it will withstand appeal. But the forfeiture by wrongdoing is here to stay. January 1st of 2011, the Illinois Supreme Court enacted the rules of evidence and adopted the common law and the federal rule 804B, which has been in existence since 1997. There are federal cases throughout the country upholding this principle.
Jim, what role will Stacey's death play in the sentencing? What will you do with that?
Certainly, we'll be looking at all aspects of aggravation that we can present at the sentencing hearing. As you all know, Judge White made a finding in the hearsay hearing relative to the death of Stacey Peterson, and we have that evidence available to present to make sure that the appropriate sentence is rendered in this case.
Will you charge him with Stacey's disappearance and death? Will you do that?
I'm sorry.
Will you charge Drew Peterson with Stacey's disappearance, Stacey's death? What are your plans for that?
Again, we have to catch our breath and begin a review of the evidence in that case.
So no plans as of right now. I mean,
we are going to aggressively review that case, with an eye towards potentially charging it.
What is the sense of relief through all the issues in this trial? The sense of relief when you got the guilty verdict. What were you thinking?
Well, it's kind of my entire career has been against all odds. I was never supposed to be elected state's attorney. There hadn't been a Democratic state's attorney in 36 years here. And every step that I've taken in my career, I've always, if I saw something that I felt needed to be addressed, I addressed it without looking at what my political future would be. And this particular one just cried out. Believe me, when we made the decision to charge this case, John Connor and I were the only two people in the office that said we need to charge it. So we moved forward, and I've never been goaded into doing anything in my career. If I feel it's the right thing to do, I do it. And this absolutely was the right thing to do. And, the pundits in Chicago have written some pretty scurrilous articles about me. None of these authors have ever met me. And the law professors that you people interview, they were all castigating me until the Supreme Court affirmed me, and then they did a 180. So next time you talk to them, you might remember that. Not for a moment. The only way you win cases like this is you never stop believing. And, at every jury trial that I've ever done, I've always believed that I was going to win. And it's critical that you believe that. The jury can tell whether you're conning them or whether your emotion is real. So it's critical that you believe in your case. Well, I started my rebuttal with regards to the head laceration not being as large as the Grand Canyon, and I think that spoke volumes about the quality of their closing argument.
Jim, was there a personal reason you took this case?
Obviously, the longer any person is gone, the easier it is to prove that they haven't just simply run away and that they are deceased. And October 28th of 2007 is way in our rearview mirror now. So we're going to look at that case and assess it as it stands today. And if we feel confident that we go forward, we will be doing so. Like I said, Scott, this has been a case that transcends the criminal justice system. It's an incredibly positive statement by our society that we will not tolerate this kind of bullying, tormenting of women, and indiscriminate murder. This man murdered her because he was larger than she was. He's basically a coward. This guy never did anything. When he was on the man's agency, they tell him to go watch the back door when they hit the door at the battering ram, and he'd still be there following them in. He always got everybody else to do his heavy work. He was a thug. He would threaten people because he had a gun and a badge, and nobody ever took him on. We took him on now, and he lost. No. Again, the hearsay has been completed. It's admissible and probative evidence, as we told the jury, and it's solid. It's corroborated by the physical evidence. There's no question, after you look at the medical evidence in this, that she was violently drowned by another person. And all of the evidence points to this defendant.
Jim, when you probably asked for a felony out of conviction, what your theory is, what you believe actually happened in that bathroom? How do you believe Kathleen drowned?
You know, before, as I was preparing for this case, I was reading up on the Scott Peterson prosecution in California. They never proved how she was killed, and the jury didn't care, because what they did prove is that Scott Peterson did it. And this defendant brutally killed Kathleen Savio.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.